I'm going to start my debate in 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning ladies and gentlemen and the honorable panel of judges. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Muhammad Emir Gifari. You guys can call me Emir for short. And I'm here as the first speaker of the opposition team. Absolutely disagree with this motion, which is in post-conflict state. For example, the post-Civil War, regime change, and colonialism, this house believes that history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up history rather than top-down historiography. Now, before I continue with my argument, I'm going to give some rebuttal for the first speaker of the government team. I'm going to rebuttal two of his argument. The first one is, people who are champions in popular historiography tend to be the elite, making you or us unlikely to be moved because they are probably living in the castle, while we as an individual are probably as a working class. Now, I'm going to give you guys some reason on why this actually cannot really relatable for us. Because, as we know, just because they are actually very privileged in their future doesn't mean they are born with it. Because, as we know, there's actually a lot of history people or champion in a popular historiography that is actually born from a very, very poor family and then climb to the top of the society because of their perseverance. Now, I'm going to give you guys the example of it. The first is the President of the United States itself, which is Abraham Lincoln. Now, he was born from a very poor family with a limited formal education, and if I remember correctly, he was born in the woodshed of his family, But he can still be the president of the United States because of his preference, and this making it making the argument from the first speaker of the government team not very relatable. And then I'm going to give you guys the second example, which is Joan of Arc. As we know, Joan of Arc is also born from a very poor family. It's also stated, if I remember, that his father cannot read, and will probably be making her to become more hard to receive any formal education. But because of her perseverance, also she can be stated. She can be a popular champion in the historiography because of his perseverance on making I'm going to repeat. She's become a popular in historiography because of her because of her perseverance, because she can convince the King of France to make her lead the French troop against the English on the war. And now, I'm going to give you guys the second argument that I'm going to rebuttal, which is post-conflict state need validation and shared identity to stop future conflict. Now, sure, shared identity matters, but the government completely misunderstands what kind of identity can create long-term peace, because just forcing a national identity is very fragile and artificial, because the government didn't realize that in post-conflict society, a lot of people are already distrusting their government or their state. And when the textbook suddenly change from the top-down historiography into the bottoms-up historiography, they are probably going to think that their suffering is being minimized, because, as we know, the bottoms-up historiography is very different than top-down historiography. Now, I'm going to continue with my argument. First, the biggest problem in post-conflict society is not about the lack of representation. Instead, it is because of the fragmentation of the people in the state. Now, as we know, people individual in the post-conflict state, because of post-Civil War, regime change, and colonialism, are actually very fragmented by their ethnic, religion, and so many different things, making it very hard if we realize the bottoms-up historiography, because from the top-down historiography, it's actually provide us some shared timelines and a common understanding on the national event, and not just by an individual people on the country or in state itself. And then the second one is, there is also a lot of weakness on the bottoms-up historiography. Now, I have stated that in the top-down historiography, it provides a shared timeline and a common understanding on national event, but the bottoms-up historiography do not provide those, making it very difficult for us to conclude things that has happened on the history. The bottoms-up historiography has a weakness, which is scarcity of source, because it's only focused on micro experience by an individual, that making it very difficult to see the conclusion of the history on the things that has happened, like I said before. Now, this is actually a negative thing for the country that has been in the post-conflict, because like I said before, the main problem is not because the lack of representation, instead it is because the fragmentation of the people on the country. And by making the bottoms-up historiography to be in the textbook, it will be making a lot of individual that is different from the people that have their maybe diary or maybe their POV said in the textbook, making other people that doesn't really share the same experience becoming more, doesn't feel like it's fair. Because like I said before, like on my rebuttal, I said that where the textbook being prioritized on the bottom of historiography, people will often feel like their suffering is being minimized. Now, I think that's all from my argument. Thank you so much for listening, my dear ladies and gentlemen, and our honorable panel of judges. I'm sorry if I had any mistake in my saying, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And once again, I, as the first speaker of the opposition teams, absolutely disagree with this motion, which is in post-conflict state, like because of post-civil war, regime change, and colonialism, this house believes that history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than top-down historiography. Thank you very much.